Good morning and bulakinaka everyone. Today, my partner and I will be presenting on the given topic, the old and new indentured labor practices and human rights. Before we go on to our presentation this morning, I would like to introduce us. So my name is Meliki Kuricava, and my partner's name is...
Thank you, Meliki. My name is Miss Tasmeen Shah, and I'm a teacher at a secondary school in Fiji.
Oh, thank you, madam. So just an apologies to all the attendants for today's presentation. Sorry, my partner and I could not make our slides into a slideshow because there is some, I can say, some network issues. So, but nonetheless, so our presentation, the scope of our presentation, we'll be discussing on the theme construction of identities, followed by the question, which is our presentation is based on, and the abstract that we have already submitted, and followed by the introduction and aim. From the body, we'll be discussing three factors, and those are the psychological factor, linguistic, and social factor. How is these three factors affected the new immigrants that came to Fiji? And last but not the least was conclusion. So our presentation is based on this theme, construction of identities. The question that we'll be basing on is, how did the early migrants adapt psychologically and linguistically and socially to their new homeland? So we'll be focusing on the early migrants. Those are the Indians that came to Fiji in the 1874, and how are these people adapted to this new place psychologically in terms of their mental state, and how did they learn language, like learning foreign language, and also socially into their new homeland. So this is the abstract that my partner have submitted, that the early migrants arrived in Fiji, from the year 1879 to 1916, under the British Labour system. So with this, the context that was given for them to come and work just a period of 5 years. So the word girmit is a broken English. Comes from the word agreement. Since the Indians cannot, they were illiterate at that time, they cannot pronounce the word agreement. So this is where the word girmit was birthed from the word agreement. So the purpose of this presentation, simply to explore the struggles and view the lens from the early migrants' point of view as to how they have adapted psychologically, linguistically, and socially to their new homeland called Fiji. So Fiji is their new homeland. They have left their motherland, which is India, and they have come to their new homeland. With reference to the literature, these people also highlight the struggles that the girmitiyas had gone through. They were psychologically manipulated into coming to Fiji. Yes, I will discuss that further. And however, they had to adapt to the new language spoken by the foreigners and be able to communicate. And the girmitiyas raised their voice and fought for freedom and adapted socially to Fiji's context. So all of these things, we'll discuss it in our presentation. Introduction. Indenture in Fiji was a system of oppression, yes, through which the labor of Indian migrants was extracted largely by cohesive control and the denial of legal justice. Such a system of power, however, are not self-maintaining. They are created, reproduced, and interpreted by human actors in the face of challenges by those who attempt to control. So in here, we can say that the British people, they did, manipulated the Indian people to come to to come to our country. Probably they were given promises, and we will look at that later. They were given promises. Okay, you will go here, you will go to this place, you will have money, you earn more money, and you will have a suitable living conditions. So all those things, all those factors was given to the Indians, and that's why they came willingly. They came willingly to our country. The aim of our presentation is to discuss how the early migrants have adapted to the new homeland in terms of these three factors, the factors that I've already said: psychologically, linguistically, and socially. Moving on, now we'll look at the core of our presentation: psychological factor. So psychological factor, it has to do with their mental state, their mental state. So I can say that they were being manipulated. The British people manipulated the Indian people, the early migrants, to come over. What sort of promises they were given? They were promised wealth, and they were also promised freedom and suitable living conditions. That was what they were being told. So also, moving on to the second point, the contract requires them to work for a period of 5 years. After 5 years, they were free to return to India at their own expense. Imagine, their mind starts to think, okay, so it's just 5 years. It's just 5 years. So we'll go to Fiji to work and get more money and come back. So we'll pay our own boat fare, our own way back to India. Before we move on, I would like to explain more about the boat. Even before they even reach Fiji, like even inside the boat while they were traveling, like everything that was promised to them, it never did happen. It never happened. While inside the boat traveling, because they were promised it's going to be a short journey, but then it took them 3 months. So they were thinking their mental state must be, must be turning from a positive side to a negative side. So their contract, the contract that they signed was 5 years, but they were prevented from returning to India by the colonial government of Fiji and the colonial sugar refining company. That's when they reach Fiji. When they reach Fiji and they start their work, and then the people of Fiji, the government, those who are in superior at that time, they prevented them from going back. So the agreement was 5 years. So when they thought they'll be there for another 5 years or so, so imagine what's going on in their mind. Oh, this thing was said to us when we were back in India. We're supposed to work and our living conditions supposed to be good. We were promised this. Imagine the state of mind at that time. I think they will be confused. Yes, they will be confused because of what has been promised and what they are seeing in reality. Moving on, now we will see the contributing factor. We will see the contributing factor to psychological. These are some of the psychological. The men at that time, they were supposed to fill 3 trucks with sugar cane. So these are some of the factors that affected them psychologically. Now I will give the time to my partner to carry on from this side.
I will continue from here. Adapted linguistically, the girmitiyas had to adapt linguistically. The indenture system had 2 positive effects on subsequent generations. Right? People of different castes were to live together and eat together, led to an end of the caste system. The development of a new Koine language known as Fiji Hindi formed from the Hindi dialects of eastern Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, mainly Awadhi and Bhojpuri. The language was further enriched by the inclusion of many Fijian and English words. The language is now the mother tongue of almost all Fiji Indians and is the lingua franca of not only all the Fiji Indians, but also of all communities where ethnic Indians are in a majority. They also had to adapt socially. The positive impact of the Girmit system was that there was an end to the caste system. This end had started when the girmitiyas boarded the ships, right? So from the beginning, the end to the caste system had started from the beginning when they boarded the ships which took them to Fiji. The girmitiyas who were from different castes were forced to stay together in cramped ships. Upon arrival to Fiji, the girmitiyas were given small rooms known as coolies where they had to stay, and these small rooms accommodated 3 men and 3 women. They were randomly chosen to stay in these coolies, so this meant that people from different castes had to live together. People from different caste system lived together, and during this process, the caste system came to an end. Also, the girmitiyas were given a limited amount of food, which finished before the week ended. The natives have even helped the girmitiyas in terms of providing food during that harsh period, and so they socially bonded. For example, the story of Pandit Totaram, where he says that an Itoke had made some cassava for him when he had no food in the house. The natives helped the girmitiyas, and the girmitiyas helped the natives at one point. Moving on, they had difficulty adapting to the situation and started committing suicides. So the girmitiyas had a lot of difficulty adapting to the situation in which they were in, and most of them started to commit suicide. A lot of suicides had taken place during this period. The real reason was due to cultural and social disruptions. They were culturally isolated, they were socially isolated, they felt the trauma brought by social dislocation within the harsh environment. They were working from the morning to the night, right? So there was no such thing as an 8 to 4 job. They were working continuously until they got really tired, and that is when they were taken to their rooms. In conclusion, I can say that the girmitiyas played an important role in the development of Fiji's economy. They accommodated themselves psychologically, linguistically, and socially to their new home, which was Fiji. Those who stayed did so because of new kinship and ties or enhanced economic and social opportunity. Most of them settled on lands as farmers prospered and progressed. The majority of the Indo-Fijians are direct descendants of these exiled girmitiyas of Fiji. This is our reference. Thank you. This is the end of our presentation. I hope we have done justice because we were allocated only 15 minutes for this. The floor is open for questions and comments. Thank you very much.